not flesh and blood, but the heart which makes us fathers and sons. Wise words that bring us into this episode of the Jamaican Dadz podcast. I'm Dennis Brooks.
I'm Marlon Campbell.
I'm Floyd Green.
I'm Garth Williams, and we are
Jamaican Dadz.
That's right. Welcome to the podcast. This program is about providing Jamaican men with a healthy, safe space and a functional forum to tackle lots of the issues, taboo issues particularly, around our masculinity.
Well, you know, as we always say, we are dads of varying experience, differing worldviews, but we're all brethren, and we are committed to this country that we call Jamaica. And
a lot of the content out there about parenthood is about women. It's written by women, for women. Nothing's wrong, but we're our views. We're the dad-centric views. Yep. So, of course, we want to use this forum to air those views, to provide advice for our friends who are fathers and fathers-to-be.
Indeed. So we have a great show lined up for you today. Coming up later, we have Dad Try This, yet another interesting life hack. And of course, we have Fresh to Death. We'll share some basic hair care tips.
Okay.
But
it's not for us.
Okay. We'll share them just the same. But of course, our discussion in the meat of the matter today is discipline and daddy. And it's a part 2 of the discussion. We'll have clinical psychologist Candice Wray. But before we get into it, let's fire off with the opening salvo.
All right, so in this week's opening salvo, we're celebrating a group of fathers from Washington, D.C. who have formed what's called the Dad Gang.
The Dad Gang?
Yeah, the Dad In our culture of violence in Jamaica, I'm not so sure I want to use the term gang.
I'm not sure I want to say gang.
But here's what's
anyway,
up. 4 years ago, a woman approached a black father who was doing some shopping in the grocery store with his kids. She commended him for, quote-unquote, sticking around and doing right by his children, which is cool. It's all good. Now he and his dad gang are marching in Washington, D.C. in an effort to challenge such racial stereotypes. And it's really a response to what, they're like, oh, you're a father. You're a black father.
No, you're a black father.
You're a black father. You're out with your kids. Oh, my God. Yeah. So Sean Williams is his name. He says that that moment in the grocery store in a mostly white Long Island neighborhood was not unique, and many of his friends experienced similar situations. The encounter led him to launch an organization of solidarity for black dads, similar to kind of what we're doing here. With a mission to change the way people view black fatherhood. So, according to the CDC in the U.S., African-American fathers who live with their children are more active than other groups. Would you believe it? In terms,
the ones who actually are.
Right. Yeah. And that's in terms of changing diapers, bathing, dressing their kids, and stuff like that. So Sean wants these positive qualities of black fatherhood to become more well-known and more celebrated in the culture. So to Sean and the Dad Gang,
Here.
we salute you.
Them up on IG? Need to find them.
We're going to find them and big them up, right? There's a pretty cool photo of him and his two kids in pinstripe suits and stuff.
Nice.
So,
I saw him on Black Fathers. At Black Fathers, I saw that picture.
There you go. So this is the man behind the Dad Gang.
Okay.
But I want to get from us though
our
thoughts, because in another episode we would have discussed the father who was giving his kids pedicures, just the sons, just to teach them how to take care of themselves and stuff like that. But we commend activities like this.
Absolutely. I think, I've said it before, we produce or we will reproduce what we focus on. And if we keep on focusing on the negative, we will have more of the negative. But if we focus more on the positive images, highlighting the positives, doing the good things, people will want to emulate that, focus on the things that we're trying to create. And I think that by highlighting this, you provide positive models for black men to replicate. And I think that even here in Jamaica, that's what we need. Because it's important for people to see, somebody do that like what Fly do. And I'm saying that even though
goals.
even though exactly. But even though I was never inclined to be a worthless papa, but I'm not saying of course it helped when I see my brethren doing the right thing. It is a positive peer pressure.
No, I agree. I think that is part of the reason why we have this show.
Yes.
Right? I think it ties in exactly to what they're doing. There are stereotypes. I think everybody knows there are stereotypes. And we discussed it. They haven't just developed, they weren't just pulled out of a hat. They've developed for a number of different reasons. In Jamaica, right here, you know, people are still surprised of fathers who are active in the lives of their children because so many times it has not happened. But I've always held the view that just like the bad child in the class, that everybody knows the name of the bad child, but the dozens that do well and, you know, nobody pays any attention. That's what happens a lot of the time. So there are a lot of good fathers out there who consistently do well by their children, but their stories are not being told. So this is going to tell stories in the American space. And I think part of what we have to do is tell some of those stories, find some of those fathers who are active, who do well, who take fatherhood seriously, and tell the stories.
And not just the popular ones.
We have to,
No.
and that's what I was saying, you know, we have to make it uncool to be a worthless pooper.
Yes.
It's simple as that.
Yes.
It's the type of poor, like, at the end of the day, it cannot be something that you feel any pride about.
Yeah.
Shame.
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 Yeah.
Shame. You understand? And you touched
Agreed.
on it in, I think it was episode 2, no, episode 1, when you were saying that the narrative, you know, you have youth, you take care of your youth.
Yeah.
All right. So
So
that
it's
is
a
what,
shift.
that it has to shift. And it might take a generation or two for it to reach full, no, to mean to be higher. Where, because some people still get away with it right now, and them thing there.
You know, I like what you said. It needs to be something that, if peradventure,
you
have one picnic where you're not take care of it. You so shame you wouldn't even want to talk about it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You wouldn't even want anybody to know. Like once upon a you know, say me, you know, say me supposed to have one youth in a Westmount. Really?
Yeah,
what do you
man,
mean you're supposed to have?
You know what you mean? You don't know.
Yeah.
You know, it is supposed to be such
Shame.
unspeakable.
Agreed.
You
And
know?
that's what, so we have to change, as I said, well, we kind of have to change the value system around what it means to be a man. Because, again, it used to just stop at, yo,
Yeah,
if you
man.
have a youth, man. And people ask you, say, you don't have no youth yet, your boss, wow. But are you taking
It has to
care
evolve.
of that child?
It has to evolve.
Are you taking care of
And
that?
I think it's evolving, by the way.
Absolutely. The Dad Gang has evolved into a community of socially conscious allies whose motto is, we are dad goals.
Yeah, but do they have hand signs?
I don't know. But that sums up the purpose of the group's events, to enjoy their time together while setting the new standard of what black fatherhood looks like worldwide. And thanks to the Dad Gang, it was not an ordinary Father's Day weekend in 2020. Yeah, in the nation's capital, hundreds gathered with Sean and his group at the National Museum of African American History and Culture to celebrate their families and bust racial stereotypes.
Hold on, no, I think them.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Mr. Speaker.
You're here, Mr. Speaker. And that's what we have to do here too in Jamaica. You know what I mean? Because we spend time with the youth them. Great. You know what I mean? What we spend time with the youth them do is our next thing. You know what I mean? So we have to evolve it. Just like how we evolve past, you get a youth. You take care of your youth. Now, you spend time with the youth. We spend time with the youth.
Elevate the youth.
So teach them about them history. Teach them about them culture. You know what I mean? And then get into things that bring you all together closer.
I think we're going to have to, and part of, and I love the external outreach and the fact that they took it to a public space and public space with a lot of history. Part of what we will have to do definitely is have some conversation with the young men, right? The ones who are not yet fathers, in reshaping this concept of what it means to be a Jamaican dad. Right? I think we'll have to go out, have to reach out to them, have to sit down and talk to them. Like, you know, don't make it be a buck-up thing. Plan feet. Yes, and work it out. Right? Think about how you choose the mother of your child. And maybe we need a whole program.
Oh, yes.
No, you know.
Here, Mr. Speaker.
Are we going to open that can of worms?
But it should be a choice. Yes,
It's a part of family planning.
No, but remember, I don't believe in this buck-up thing. Right? So you should take some time and look. Because even if it don't work out between the mother and the father, if you've taken some time to really choose the mother of your child, the outcomes are normally better.
Or better put, if you've taken the time for both of you to determine that you want to start a family together.
Yeah, but she have to choose you.
No,
choose something.
Exactly.
But she have to choose you.
I
too.
choose you.
Yeah, no, she have to choose you.
In fact, she more choose you than
Right,
anything.
baby mama.
And that's exactly Marlon said. That's exactly what I said. Oftentimes, a woman
She choose you long time. You just never know.
You get the rose.
Make up her mind say, yo, yeah,
Yo.
all right, I could have a child with this guy. When the man, him just show up. No, man.
Yeah, man.
So we have to have some of these discussions. So good move.
Very good move. So, well, again, to Sean Williams and the Dad Gang, we salute you. We salute
Big
all
up
of
yourself.
you.
Big
Yeah,
up
man,
yourself.
for real. Keep doing good things. All right, no, well, we can actually continue the conversation. Let's talk about, because we talk about doing these things externally, with the kids and whatnot. We're in Jamaica. Obviously, our audience is not only Jamaican, though. We're in the Caribbean.
Yeah,
we're in the diaspora.
but-
What I wanted to get at is, what are some of the things that we do with our children?
Apart from beat them. I'm kidding. No. It's a joke. I'm joking.
It's funny because we're going to talk about this.
But
what are some of the things that you and Judah do, and what you have lined up as well?
no, well,
'Cause he's
personally,
on that too, so,
at this point, I'm simply Judah's.
Gopher.
I'm his gopher. That's the word. That's my job.
But I've seen you do this thing where you take him to learn how to swim.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I wanna
Yeah,
do
well,
that.
I take him swimming.
Oh,
and
Jackson
so
not
forth.
swim yet?
No, but
You need to care, by the way.
because I
No,
know
I know.
COVID thing,
Listen,
but I mean,
I know.
And then the thing is that you're a little bit different. Like I will see you. I mean, you're where you live has a pool.
Yeah.
So like I will be in total trepidation.
Like, what is the truth? Listen, a couple of the videos that I said, Jesus Christ.
I'm like, and you're totally fine.
And that is another thing I trust my child, one,
Yeah.
and him have sense. And also,
You're 2 meters behind him.
Exactly. It's simple reasoning. Why am I sending you swimming if me I go act scared with you around water?
yeah,
I'm
true.
teaching you to be scared of it that way, so I don't
Yeah.
get scared. So if he falls in, I don't reason, If him drop in,
Yeah.
me can't take him out before me even realize him drop in. That is one of the things. And he genuinely loves water. I see that already, that he loves water.
Love being?
Oh yes, in time of bad time and all.
Happy
And so
time.
I encourage it and all. I leave him. If you see you were probably searching with Nate for football and them something there. Hey, this youth might be the next big swimmer, so me nah stop it.
Yeah, no worry about
I mean,
Nate.
and I look forward. I look forward to the zoo. Like I really want to go to the zoo.
I want to take him to the zoo.
You know,
but
so
when
like
he can't
I
understand.
have these things like, all right, I'm gonna do
I
the
have a
swimming
list.
thing. He needs to learn how to swim, but like, yeah, definitely. But like you mentioned, like with the dads going to
African American.
yeah, and I'm like, imagine taking Jackson to Institute of Jamaica at some point when he can
Right.
appreciate it, or imagine like a whole group of
Group of us,
fathers
yeah.
meeting up at Institute of Jamaica or some museum or something where people don't usually go
Right.
unless there's a field trip, unless you happen to go to one of those schools that go to those things.
Yeah.
Like
Field
my
trip, the man
mother
said.
always had this thing about you're not supposed to grow up and not know no way.
Right.
You know, so I'm going to take you places. I'm going to take you to Port Royal, and we're going to show you what Port Royal is from early. Like those are things that I really want because it's part of the imagination. You
I'm
know?
looking forward to
So
that too.
I've done the zoo. The zoo is excellent. It's an excellent place to interact father and son.
We need some more
especially with
age.
the animals around. So I like that. I've taken Nate to work. And that means to work literally in the constituency. We've gone to meet the people.
Yeah.
And he's told his mother he's going to meet the people now.
We know who the MP is going to be. So
Oh, well, he has no such desire.
Yeah,
He's
if he
told me.
know.
If I know, yeah. But he's told me, quite frankly. No, I remember Nate said to me, listen, I don't want to be a politician, right? So I said, okay. I thought he was going to say, like, because maybe I'm not there a lot and things like that. So I said, why you don't want to be a politician? Man say, I've been to your functions. They're boring. was 5, you know.
So, the man shell you.
And
I take him to work.
Yeah.
So I think it's important. Clearly, depending on what you do, right? Once it's safe, I think it's important to take your kids to work.
Expose them.
Right? So they see what you do. They have a great appreciation.
Yeah, I've been there. I've
right?
been there already.
I think
Just come to surgical.
I think that is important. And then, you know, I love ramping with him. I love, you know,
just general
yeah,
play.
General, you know. Now we're doing a garden. Trying to get him into that. You have to find different things to make them enjoy those things. But yeah.
What works for me was when like Noel started to do like, you know, map of Jamaica and learn about different sites and so on, to actually take her there, you know, so she could see these places. I remember leaving the stadium with them one evening after football, and they saw the mural out by Cunningham Avenue there, and they were asking us questions, and I was pointing them out, you know, different people who are there and what they mean to Jamaica and so on. And these are simple things that we can all
But it
try.
becomes a teachable
And
moment. It becomes a lesson.
And that is the most.
It becomes a field trip.
Of course, and let me tell you, things that you might take simply as adults mean a lot to your children.
Wonder.
To do these things.
It's wonder.
All right, so that's it for the opening salvo in the Jamaican Dadz podcast. Keep conversation going with the hashtag Jamaican Dadz with a Z. Find us on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, at Jamaican Dadz. We're everywhere that you can listen to our podcast virtually. So please subscribe and follow us. All right, we'll be back with the meat of the matter with clinical psychologist Candice Wray right after this.
Welcome back to the Jamaican Dadz podcast. I'm Dennis Brooks along with Marlon, Floyd, and Garth, and we are now into the meat of the matter. And today we are continuing this topic of discipline and daddy. And to guide us through this week, we have clinical psychologist Candice Wray. Welcome to the program, Candice.
Thank you for having me.
This is a topic that I think is so important. Traditionally, fathers are assigned a disciplinary function in the family. Very often, fathers beat, and so children learn to fear their father.
Wait till the father come home.
Yes, wait till the father come home.
Hear.
You know? So, but I mean, we do have children that are very often indisciplined or undisciplined. And as fathers, we look on and sometimes we cringe. What contributes to children becoming undisciplined? Are they just poorly socialized?
Well, it's a lot of things, that included, but also kids tend to act out when they feel like they need attention. Maybe they feel like they're not getting enough attention, but you do give them the attention when they act out. It could be a power struggle where there is not enough boundaries in the home, so they're just testing the limits. And it could be that they're going through some sort of trauma and that's their way of dealing.
So that sounds like with each instance, it requires a different disciplinary remedy. So there's no one tool in the toolkit that fits all situations. And how do you know which one you ought to be responding to? Well,
That's a tricky question, but I think it would have to stem from communication because you don't know what's going on. First, you need to find out why the child is acting out. And then once you know what the problem is, then you know how to address it.
Now, what I want to get at is this matter of the timing. So a child acts out at, say, age 13 or 15 versus acting out at age 6 or 7. Is there a point when it's just too late, the horse gone too far out the gate for you to be able to kind of rein them in?
Definitely. And that's usually in the teenage years. So if you don't get it under control when they're 6 to 8 years old, then you're going into like red zone trouble.
Are there signs, you know, that you can look at to say, boy, all right, listen, I noticed my child at 4 or 5 doing certain things and I never kind of took it into, reined it in. Is there some kind of red flag somewhere that you can say, boy, all right, let me bend this tree here so before it can't bend again?
Absolutely. I work with children. So when you have the kids who will look you in your face and laugh when you're talking to them, that's definitely a red flag for me, personally, because then it means that they don't fear reproach. And that's a problem.
You know, one of my... go ahead.
But how do you want them to fear reproach or fear the parent, and how do you teach that? How do you get it so that they know that you don't reach 6 and they pick me a laugh after you, or 8 and they pick me a laugh after you? What are the steps, some of the steps you can make in that early part? And how soon do you actually try to instill that discipline? I ask this because my son is 17 months, well, 18 months now. How do I... Should I have started correcting already? And you know what help us?
So I would say that you would start once the child is able to understand language. So once they're able to communicate and understand communication,
as in talk back, or at least understand what you're saying.
When they understand what you're saying.
Okay.
Not talk back, but him know.
Right. So once that is established, then you can start to establish rules. You can't have a household without rules, because then the child will walk all over you. So the important part of it is to establish rules. And I encourage parents to do a rule chart for the home.
Like an actual
like
physical, written out rules.
Right.
That's interesting. I mean, well, my two of them don't reach a certain phase and don't know what is what. But, I mean, I'd never thought that a physical rule chart to read is something that works and can work.
And if the child, well, depending on the stage that they're at, you can actually use pictures instead of writing out the words.
Wow.
But I think the earlier set rules, boundaries, is the better. And that's what I have found. Because children test, children try.
Oh, believe
children
me.
push, you understand? And if you don't have that and they keep feeling like they can get away, then it kind of evolves over time.
Them smart enough.
Yeah.
What I find is that children very often, in their testing and establishing of boundaries, and sometimes in just being children, we as Jamaican people have a way of saying everything rude, and I find it like
it's annoying,
everything rude,
yeah,
like in Rudy, like especially boys are slapped with this label of rude, and unnecessarily so. And so, as a modern parent, you want to give them freedom to explore and to develop a mind that, is creative, but at the same time you want to establish boundaries so that the people don't shame you or ruin.
Right.
That's the same problem I'm having right now. To add to it, because
and then you wonder, am I below him up too much? Or
what is the boundaries, because Judah is very exploratory. So I allow it. I don't usually stop him from checking most things, but I'm wondering to myself, am I giving him too much
time and place, man?
Room.
You have to instill the time and place, right? In other words, clearly, what you can do at home in terms of exploration, you always have him run the book. When him go to the supermarket, it don't work. Right. No. And we found same thing with Nate. Nate love run up and down, touch things. And like those first supermarket trips were atrocious. Kind of want to run through the aisle. Right. So you have that time and place conversation. That listen, of course, we don't mind if you're around the home and you want it. But when you go here, you will stay right here. So
and you have some children who don't understand that.
Why?
Well, it could be a deeper issue, maybe a neurodevelopmental disorder, or it could be socialization.
And I want to ask you about that now, because on that note, as Dennis talked about rude, right? I have a nephew who is now diagnosed with ADD, right?
Every pick me have ADD.
Right. But diagnosed with ADD, so everything when him did little was more like rude. How do you what should a parent do when they realize certain patterns of behavior in their child, your young child especially? What should they do? What signs should they look for to say, let me talk to a doctor about this? Because I cannot for the life of me understand why this child's hyperactivity, etc., or short attention span.
ADHD for you.
Yeah, so being hyperactive is different from being exploratory. So you have the typical child who likes to run up and down and so on, but if you tell them to stop or sit down, they will sit down. You have the child now who is excessively hyper, and you can see that they cannot control it. They have if they're sitting, they're fidgeting, tapping the leg because they just cannot stay still. That is a major sign that something is wrong.
And people, I remember when I was a kid, like me and a couple others, especially like in Sunday school, people were like, stop the fidgeting, but we just could not.
Yes. Well, that is a different kind of challenge because we bring children into adult spaces and expect them to be little adults.
Right.
And it's not right. You know, we have to appreciate that they're going to be kids even in these adult spaces.
You give them sit down.
Sometimes I think one, we have to pay attention to just the persistency of the act that you consider is against the discipline, you know, because there may be deeper challenges. And part of the challenge I find is that we're often afraid to reach out, to explore. Maybe we don't want to know, that is something that we have to talk about.
Yeah. All right. Well, you're listening to the Jamaican Dadz and tuned in, to the Jamaican Dadz podcast. We are in the middle of the meat of the matter with clinical psychologist Candice Wray as we discuss discipline and daddy part 2. We'll be right back after this.
Welcome back to the Jamaican Dadz podcast. We are discussing discipline and daddy with clinical psychologist Candice Wray. Thanks for staying with us. Now, let's look at some of the more nuanced aspects of discipline, because we are disciplining within a social, cultural context that's changing. And so, yes, we have fathers who are trying to be good dads, even though they're not home all the time. And what that does is it causes us maybe to overcompensate sometimes. How do those dynamics play out?
When daddy's not at home and then has to discipline the child or try to discipline the child.
Discipline over WhatsApp, video call.
All right, that's kind of rough. But it depends on the relationship that you have with the child in the first place. Because if you're the type of dad who is not present even when you're present, when you're gone and you're trying to discipline me, I'm like, where you come from? But it doesn't make any sense. But if you and the child have, a stable relationship, then your discipline makes sense, basically.
So remember, so my father.
We can ask about you. Oh, that is the way.
I said two things. I'm a kind of friend. Well, my father has never beat me in my entire life, but there's nobody I feared more than my father. All my father had to do was call. So the man said, "Flight me straight to the world. I come to him." I can't even have one of them.
How was he able to do that?
But when he comes, clearly he establishes himself as the disciplinarian in a different sense. So mommy is the one who deals with the discipline.
Active.
Right? Yeah. But I think two things, and this is important. I think, one, the partners in the relationship, if the father is not always there, the mother is important in terms of how the child views the father. So if when daddy comes, then it's daddy. Right? So when daddy comes, if I want to go somewhere, I have to go check daddy. Right, it's no longer mommy in charge. Right, daddy deals with those decisions once he's around. Mommy deals with it when he's not there. And if me do something wrong, Ronald,
your son, big man.
Just come. You know how like you got a junction, just come in. Yes, and but my father is not the. My father is a very laid back time. So him talk one time, right, and him don't raise him voice, none at all. Him just get a call. So when you hear Floyd. So I think mommy helped to ensure that he was respected, because remember, discipline ties into respect as well, especially as he gets older. So I think mommy helped that, and then when he came, there was no doubt who was.
I find that like the difference with my mother and father was like My father is a more cerebral disciplinarian. I find that mothers lick for everything.
Oh.
Them anything they catch, they lick you with.
Oh,
but like
Jesus.
your father, when your father says, "Go for the belt,"
Oh,
you understand? And then he.
You ever
and then
been
he says,
asked to
"Sit."
choose?
No.
Okay.
No, go for the belt behind the door. And you go for the light one, and he says, "No, not that one. Go for the leather belt."
the other one, the big boy.
Yeah? And when he tells you to sit down, he says, "You've misbehaved. You've done X, Y, Z, and I'm going to beat you." Yeah?
Oh, God.
Because you know better.
Here.
You know what I'm saying?
I'm seeing the trouble.
We are going through flashbacks right
When
now.
Imala said, you know why I'm going to beat you. And then after 5 minutes of that, you're like, beat me! Beat me and done. Mom would have done beat me by now, you know. Beat me so I can get on with my day. What is done? Just finish. You know? So I don't know, but like, I can tell you, my father never beat often. But I think I remember every lesson from any act of discipline. Like, I mean, you forget the things that your mother beat you for half of the time.
Yeah.
But your father,
Nope.
there is a difference.
Yeah.
And, you know, honestly, my dear parents, I'm not trying to throw you under the bus, but some of the things I want to do, that was borderline abusive. What if you stop it?
We're going to set up a session for you.
Right?
What if you stop it?
Yeah.
We're talking about Jamaican parents and their need to grab the nearest thing
And eat you.
and beat picnic with. What part cover doing at the beating?
But that segues into the long-term effects of
Which
Exactly.
is, yeah,
And that's what
I'm
I'm
saying.
saying.
Yeah, so, all right, jokes aside, and thing. That was it. As you said, mommy are the one where do the most beating. I know. When daddy get into it, you know you really messed up.
Well, I was sometimes my mom's student, and I was sometimes her son, because my mother was a vice principal at one of the toughest secondary schools in Westmoreland, right? Now the Godfrey Stewart High School. And let me tell you, there are some days I'm a student, and I just saw she see me. So, whap. You understand me?
Yeah.
And then one next time, come son.
You know, that sound like, and how are you psychologically right now?
You know, I've had to deal with it. I've learned through professional assistance to come to terms. And that's where we want to go with Candice now, because Marlon clearly have some PTSD, right? I'm working on mine, right?
Trust me.
Dennis has flashbacks, right? Flight seem normal.
No.
I said seem.
Hold on, one. Me tell me about it all the time. One, me remember.
Yeah, there's one that stuck
There's
out.
one beat when me come home, you know, and like, me get a new tie, you know?
Yeah.
Buy a new tie on pharmacy. And reach home now, and I say, you know, mommy, me have a new car. So I said, okay. So how much that cost?
Yeah.
And I say, $20. And I said, okay. How much money me get this morning? And I say, $20. I said, oh, so you never eat lunch? I said, no, mommy, eat lunch. So how you afford the car? No, mommy, just borrow some money from Jason. You know what? Borrow money. Do it out. Lesson well learned.
Long-term effects, as you can see, long-term effects of excessive or even in just one instance of discipline which borderline abuse.
But is it excessive though? Is it excessive or...
Hold on.
We turned out good. Is it excessive?
So it's excessive.
Yeah.
Well, I find that discipline in Jamaica tends to be excessive because of the whole slavery thing. But at the same time, the long-term effects generally are that the child can be more aggressive in play in their relation with their peers. They can be more aggressive. Poor academic performance. They don't trust their parents anymore. If something happens, the parents will not be the person that they go to. And again, I don't know if you as the parent value that sort of communication with the child, but it affects it. So again, you have a child who ends up lying. They might act out in different ways, fighting, early sexual initiation, all sorts of
Does
stuff.
it affect the parents too? I mean, because I sometimes, well, my mom's deceased now, right? But towards her final days, we had so many conversations around what took place as, while as a child, and there was a certain amount of regret or sadness, I should say. Does it affect parents?
I think it does, but in our culture, we're not really emotional people to that much of an extent. So
True.
it's learned behavior then. They never learned how to properly discipline. So they just did what their parents did. And it does affect them because sometimes they wish they would have had that, type of communication with their child, but they just didn't know how.
And let me, in another spare, I spend some time with our child care and protection system. I'm telling you, the reality, some of the things that parents think you can beat out of children, you cannot. And the approach only hardens the child. A lot of children that we came across who are in our children's homes, they've gone through significant beatings because they were taught to be bad, right? And you try to beat it out of them and it can't. And oftentimes there's no communication, there's no trust building, there's no relationship. Right, so they end up just acting out further,
and they become resentful.
One of the big problems.
Resentful is the word.
I don't think sometimes, especially as fathers, we get. You can force children to look for you elsewhere, right? So you have a lot of children who have become adults now who are searching for that father figure elsewhere because they couldn't get it from you because you believe that only thing that a father should do is to discipline and to punish. So they never form that relationship and that bond. And they look it elsewhere, and that is not necessarily the best approach.
Do you guys find that sometimes parents, West Indian parents, tend to beat because they're not teaching you a lesson, but because they're shame?
I'm frustrated.
They're angry. So, like, you broke the thing. They told you don't run in the house. You ran in the house and the thing broke. And then beat you not because they're trying to establish, cause and effect. Then just beat you because the thing broke.
And them can't bite back.
And the whole shame thing too. Have you ever seen somebody beat their child because they're in public and they did something to embarrass them?
And it's different.
And not only do they beat the child, but they beat the child because they want it to hurt. Because I've witnessed somebody beating their child and the child never cry. So she started licking hotter because
I think you're a big man.
Yes.
Man. If you don't cry, you will get more. And if you cry too much, you get nothing for ball for.
You get more. What? You not cry. Let me give you some.
Is it a bit sadistic though?
It is.
Because for real.
It is.
Okay, so I get the point, that punishment, not just discipline generally, but punishment is really aimed at causing some level of discomfort, right? But to your point, we're talking about people beat you until they see tears.
Or blood in some case.
It can get very extreme. How do you remedy that? At what point does a parent go or, say, oh my God, I really shouldn't have done that, and let me not repeat it? Can that be fixed?
It can be fixed, but they need to be taught. And I don't feel like we have a lot of those spaces to teach parents, the proper disciplinary measures in Jamaica. I think we need more of that. Because there are things you can do, like withdrawal of privileges, timeout, reasoning, and even the same...
White people sitting there.
That's the response. That's the response that we're gonna get from Jamaicans, but it works.
Leave that to Becky.
Yeah. And the same rule thing. When you have your rules, it's easy to set up rewards and punishments because at the end of the day, you can check off to see, what did you do today or how did you behave today? And if they did well, you can give them a token.
And I want to pick up on that.
And approval is...
it means everything.
You're saying
no, we did a whole... There was a whole thing in relation to schools and discipline. And we found when you replace that punishment system with a rewards-based system, you have a much greater adherence to discipline. Right? So when you reward positive behavior, because now the learning experience is that I want to do this come and get a reward.
Yeah.
Right. Instead of don't do this,
Right.
you get a punishment.
Yeah.
Because,
then-
I was saying approval system, I've seen that work. And approval it doesn't even have to be something physical.
Right.
Like
Can
with
just be
Judah,
praise.
we clap Judah when he
Right.
does
Yes.
something. And he takes pride now. Like when he finish with him juice, going to the fridge, and he won't put it back. And when he put it back,
Yes.
good boy.
Clapping.
And he starts clapping and he's happy.
Yeah.
And so forth. And we reinforce that
We
with
need to
him. so.
engender some more of that.
But at what point, though, Doc, does that reward system kind of get a little warped? Because at the same time, for example, I made an error at home, right? By giving one of my children cash for completing a task assigned. And now,
Every time they do.
Daddy, the piggy bank.
Well, these are your children, though.
Yeah.
That's your first problem.
Right? But I have a friend who recently was elevated to CEO of his company. And in his story, just kind of sharing in a moment with us, he said that he did well in school because when he did well in school, mommy at the time would give him $500 for every A he got in high school, right? So he ensured that he had a straight A profile. He got all ones for his CXCs. He got all A's for his A levels. He got his first class degree with honors. You know? And then, I mean, obviously that works well, but then is there a point where it kind of gets a little...
Maybe you can give cash for big things. Or whatever, a bigger reward for big things, but whatever reward you're giving on a daily basis has to be something that is
simpler.
small and simpler.
Yeah.
Like I said, clap. Judah gets clapped and he loves it.
It
He
works with
loves
him under too.
Yeah, hold on now.
Yeah, but as the
Because he
child
might work
gets,
at 4.
He might get
as
clap.
the child gets
Before he might get clap and
older,
kiss.
as the child gets
Yeah, I'm sorry, go ahead, Candice. Go ahead.
As the child gets older, then you're going to have to adjust what the tokens are.
Right.
And then it needs to be,
Something that's relevant to them.
yes, something that's relevant to
Could
them.
it be cumulative? So
No.
instead of every time, say, have you been a good... Oh, no, don't be cumulative.
No, because children need instant gratification. So it needs to be at the end of the day or something like that.
End of the week.
Yeah.
We'll give you...
No,
this
not
is
at the
good.
end of the week. That won't work.
We'll give you 30 seconds. Stare into that camera. 30 seconds. Final piece of advice for dads on this matter as it relates to discipline.
As it relates to discipline, I'll just tell dads that they need to be consistent. You can't laugh 1 minute for something and then get serious the next time. You confuse the child. So consistency is key. So you need to say beforehand what the expected behavior are and then tell them what are the rewards.
All right, good stuff. Well, that's it for the meat of the matter, discipline and daddy with clinical psychologist Candice Wray. And she just mashed her con.
Mind too?
Yeah.
Listen, and try not to laugh. Ooh.
You're tuned in to the Jamaican Dadz podcast. Please keep the conversation going with the hashtag Jamaican Dadz. Follow us on social media. We'll be right back with Fresh to Death.
Thanks for staying with us here on the Jamaican Dadz podcast. We're coming up to the end of the program, so it's time for Fresh to Death.
Fresh.
And today we're looking at a topic that us follically challenged folks, we still need to appreciate because this has to be managed. We don't just wake up like this. And it is basic hair care tips.
Yeah.
And as a matter of fact, it's more work for us than you know.
Go on.
It is
No,
more
hold
work.
on, because you just go to the barber once a week. At least for me, every morning I have to be
We have to
shave and...
Is it optional? Isn't it? Sorry, never
What?
mind.
Yeah, I don't know. It's like a style on the put in. I'm going to choose. No, not really.
What? Did you choose it or it chose you?
So
Cut! Let's leave. I'm done.
So last time round we spoke about shampooing less because of what happens to your hair with the SLS, right? That's the who remembers? Nobody? Good. Sodium lauryl sulfate, which dries out your scalp. We spoke about moisturizing your hair every day, and we also spoke about choosing a low maintenance style, something that you don't have to always, one, be spending on, two, always adjusting. So if you keep it, cut it and keep it low, or if you go bald, intentionally or otherwise, or if you're growing...
Or both, a little bit of both.
Or a bit of both, right?
Yes, yeah.
Or if you're just growing locks or whatever, that's usually the best thing to do. But also, for those of you who carry a little more hair on the head, particularly those who are growing long hair. So whether in the form of locks or rope twists or regular cornrows, you have to choose the right styling product, right? Because you can end up damaging your hair, right? The hard truth is that, it's not cheap. Let me just put it that way. It's not cheap, but also you have to make sure that it is formulated for your particular hair type. Now, we're a set of black men. Talking to primarily a black audience, right? A lot of the products out there are not necessarily for your black hair. So you've got to be very careful. So you make sure that you're in the ethnic section, or you ask in the pharmacy or wherever you purchase your hair care products, hey, listen, this is my kind of hair. So find something that can really help, right?
But then, black men need to have a conscious hair care regime then.
Yeah.
Right.
Like it's not going to happen by chance.
No.
You have to be deliberate about it.
And there are Jamaican products now. There are a lot of Jamaican product lines that are specially formulated for men, for Jamaicans, that use a lot of our indigenous plants. Really good. Really good. You can check out Herbu. They have a whole line.
Herbu.
Yeah, they have a whole line of herbal care.
Is it Herbu or Herb-boo?
It would be Herb-oo. H-E-R-B-O-O. It's one word.
It named Herbu, and I think, it's quick story. They developed it when they were in college, and they were saying, yo, buy it for Herbu.
Right.
But
generally speaking, though, you want to avoid options that contain alcohol, mineral oil, or petrolatum. Good to hold things in place, but really bad for your hair. All right? So just bear those things in mind when you're keeping yourself fresh to death. That's right. That's it right here on the Jamaican Dadz podcast. We'll be back after the blink of an eye. Blink.
Of course, we have another feature we call Dad, Try This. It's a useful life hack that we try to give you that you can implement. And getting dressed faster is what we're going to be talking about, especially if your outfit is elaborate or you're dressing up for something important. You don't want to underestimate how long it will take. You take long for get dressed?
No, I'm just get ready overall.
Nope, I don't take long to get dressed. I don't take long to get ready.
You just take long to wake up.
Oftentimes, I have a lot of things that I try. You know what I do? And maybe a lot of men do it. I underestimate the time that I need
to do the various things on your
So therefore, you take long to get ready.
No, I don't take long to get ready, but I underestimate the time I need.
So what you can do, and this is part of our thing now. At home, like on a Saturday or Sunday when you have a little bit of time, try put on one suit. So say you wear a lot of suits. Zine, time yourself. From the moment you would have walk out of the shower, Zine, and time yourself. Underwear, socks, undershirt, etc. You know what all the different pieces are to when you put on your shoes, you grab everything that you need to walk through the door. Time yourself. So you have that idea. You know exactly. So, okay, it takes me 25 minutes from shower to exiting. See? So you know that. The other thing, though, that we want to point out is what you can do is lay out your clothes. So it might sound like a ladylike thing, but the truth is, if you really want to cut out the whole heap of decision making, especially at the last minute, plan out where you go wear. You know your tie, you know your belt must match your socks and your shoes. Well, your belt must match your shoes. The socks is a different ball game altogether.
These days,
right? Depends on the type of socks game where you have, right? But plan out what you're wearing, and then say it lay out properly. Make sure
I don't lay it out actually, like lay it out,
it
but
can
like
be hung up.
No, like for me, like precognition is important.
Right.
So like I will think about every detail and make sure I know where it is, because I don't want on the day or when I start getting where I realize I really don't know where that brown belt is, and then I'm ending up having to. It just throws off everything else that you're doing. No. So like everything, me just check. Okay, it's there. So the belt is there, the socks are there, that, and everything is in its place. Because everything needs to be in its
Yeah,
place.
and
that helps me get ready quick.
And what helped me too is that I wear a lot of t-shirts based on, just how my work around. See? Press the shirt them. So if the shirt them pressed from before, or you wear a jersey, hang up the jersey them from before, so you don't really have no whole heap of kinks in it.
I was going to say that.
So that at the moment when you're ready, you can just grab and go, rather than realizing, oh my God, I look like a bunch of color low because
if you have time on a Sunday afternoon, just do all you need to do. Press 6. There's 6 dress shirt them if you're a dress shirt person. 6 because you need one just in case. Clean the shoes them, the various shoes them.
Yes, man.
If you need, put them down.
Make it a thing.
Yeah, get organizers because you will have organizers where you can put your socks them in each. I have one, I still not use it yet, but yeah, just put it in everything. Have everything ready to go. You belt them the register or whatever. So the plus of that is that if you have to change for whatever reason in the middle of one morning, if you change your mind about what you do, because you might you have options right there one time, so you don't have to go press again this and that and them something there.
And routine is important.
Routine, yeah.
Because you know where things are, you know how to do things. All right, so you can thank us later.
Yeah.
But for the meantime,
Try it.
You're welcome. All right, that's it for that. Try this.
Well, we're at the end of the podcast for today. Thanks again for tuning in. Thanks again if you've tuned in again or on another platform. It's always important for us to try to share as much as possible. We hope you found it useful. We hope you found it enjoyable. Let's hear from you. Send us your questions. Send us your suggestions for topics or opening salvo. Jamaican Dadz podcast at gmail.com. Remember, Dadz with a Z. Subscribe to us on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. Just search at Jamaican Dadz with a Z. Keep the discussion going, of course, on Twitter with the hashtag Jamaican Dadz. Until next time, I'm Dennis.
I'm Alan.
Always Floyd.
I'm Garth Williams, and we are
Jamaican Dadz.
Until next time, stay safe and support your Jamaican father.
Aye.